House-sitting. My mom had a friend who lived in an apartment not far from us. It had once been a big house that had been turned into several apartments. One time, she went on a long trip. She had a couple of goldfish and some plants that needed tending to, so Mom volunteered to help out while the friend was gone. Mom would pick me up after school, and we'd go and feed the fish and water the plants every other day. One time, when we got there, the atmosphere in the apartment felt really off. It felt like 1,000 invisible eyes were staring at us. Then we heard a female voice from inside the bedroom. "Hello?" it called. We were both really startled. Someone was in the apartment. My mom shouted back, but there was no answer. I freaked out and told Mom I wanted to go home. Then we heard the voice again. "Help! I'm here!" My mother told me to stay where I was, then she went into the bedroom. "I'm in here!" The voice was no longer coming from the bedroom, it was coming from the front door. My mother came out of the bedroom. I pointed towards the front door, and then the voice called out again from inside the bedroom. My mother shouted, "Where are you? Who is this?" We could hear whimpering, but this time we couldn't locate where the sound was coming from. It was like the sound was everywhere in the entire apartment. Then I heard the voice again, but now screaming right into my left ear. "Help! I'm here!" I covered my ear with my hands, and I saw Mom do the same. My ear was ringing really loud. My mom seemed to have had enough. We ran out of there as fast as we could. When we were back at home, my mother immediately called her friend up and told her about what had happened. Mom said she was not going back to the apartment. Her friend told her she would arrange so that her brother could come and pick up the keys to the apartment. When the brother came, he was very curious about what had happened to us in the apartment. When we told him, he said he was going to go there and see what was going on. A couple of weeks after that, Mom's friend was back from her holiday, and when we met her, she shared with us what her brother had uncovered about the apartment. Before the house had turned into apartments, an old senile woman had lived there. The house was way too big for her, and because she was senile, she would get lost in all the rooms. She refused to move into a nursing home, so her son would come by and check on her every day. Then her son became really ill and had to stay in the hospital for a week. He arranged for someone to check on his mom every day, but something went wrong with the communication, so no one came. When the son came back from hospital, she had been dead for 3 days. We found her in the part of the house that was now Mom's friend's apartment. What me and Mom heard must have been the long-lost echoes of the old woman calling for help, afraid and lost in the big house. The Witch. On my street, there lived a woman. She was very old, and the house she lived in looked ready to fall apart any second. She would walk down our street every day, and whenever she appeared, some of us kids would stare, others would run and hide. She was missing 2 fingers on her right hand. People said that when she was young, her father had cut her fingers off as punishment for her writing love letters to a man he didn't approve of. I don't know if it was just a rumor, but we believed it. We called her the witch. One time, a cousin of mine was visiting from another town, and as we were standing in the front yard, the witch walked by. I don't really know what I told my cousin, but it must have been something like, "Doesn't she look scary?" My cousin looked at me like I was an idiot. "Don't say that. She can't help that she's old." My cousin was right. She couldn't help that she looked the way she did. A couple of days later, I was standing at the side of the road selling lemonade with a friend. We were gathering money for a school trip. It was a hot day, so lots of people were buying. My friend ran inside to get some more paper cups, and while she did, I sat and counted the money we had gathered. That's when I saw the old lady coming down the road. She walked very slowly, and she seemed more frail than usual. It was probably the heat. When she was close enough, I said, "Care for some lemonade, ma'am? My treat." I handed her a cup, and she drank it all up. Then she nodded at me and continued her walk. It must have been a few weeks later that I saw her again. I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, but I was 11 years old and still hadn't learned how to ride a bicycle. I was just never really interested in learning, but that changed when I realized I couldn't join my friends on excursions if I didn't know how to ride a bike. My dad was holding on to the back of the bike, but I could never pedal more than a few feet until the bike started swaying and I'd fall. I was really clumsy. It felt hopeless. We were just about ready to head back home when suddenly the old woman was standing in front of us. She tilted her head to the side like a praying mantis and smiled. Her teeth looked like they were made of wood. Then she started speaking, and with the scratchiest, driest, most ancient voice, she said,
"That's a nice bike you've got there."
It was like she was saying something for the first time in years, and when she had finished her sentence, she looked just as surprised as Dad and I felt. "Thanks, ma'am," said Dad. She looked at us for a couple of seconds, and then continued walking. When we started walking home, Dad suggested I try and ride the bike back home just to get a little more practice. I reluctantly agreed, and he stood behind me holding the bike, and I started pedaling. It was a bit swayy, but Dad made sure I wouldn't fall. I started pedaling faster, and when I did, it felt a lot easier to keep my balance. I shouted to Dad that I didn't know he could run that fast, but he didn't answer. I shouted again, still no answer. Then it dawned on me, he wasn't holding the bike. I was riding on my own. I was completely blown away, and so was my dad. From that day on, I could ride a bike without any problems. I don't know if it had anything to do with the old woman. Maybe it was all just a coincidence, her walking past, saying what she said, and me all of a sudden being able to ride a bike. But it kind of felt like witchcraft. The painting. When I was a kid, we had a painting hanging over our mantelpiece. It depicted the back of a woman hiding behind a tree. Her dress was torn and dirty. I used to pretend it was Little Red Riding Hood, lost in the woods, hiding from the big bad wolf. The painting had hung in that spot for as long as I could remember. One night, we had left a window open, and someone broke into our house. The only way we realized what had happened was because there were footprints all over the house. But nothing seemed to be missing. Nothing except the painting. My mom was crushed. I remember being sad about the painting and looking at the empty space on the wall where it had once been. It looked so wrong and bare. When I was older and getting ready to go to college, my parents and I were sitting and reminiscing about my childhood when I remembered the painting. "Did you ever catch whoever took that painting?" I asked. "What painting?" My parents said. "The one that hung over the mantelpiece in the living room. The one that was stolen." They looked at me with blank faces, like they had no idea what I was talking about. I described the painting to them, but they seemed to have no recollection of it whatsoever. So I pulled out our family albums. I found some photos of one of my birthday parties, and I could not believe my eyes. There were some photos of me opening presents. Behind me was the fireplace, and above the mantelpiece was nothing, just a naked wall. I went through photo after photo, and the painting wasn't anywhere in any of the photos. I have asked several relatives and friends if they remember the painting, and nobody does, only me. How can I remember something spanning over several years if it didn't exist? I distinctly remember seeing those dusty footprints from the burglar and the weird empty feeling after the painting was gone. When my parents saw how confused I was, they got worried and almost didn't want to let me go to college. They thought I might be losing my mind. So I let the whole thing go and told them that I must have dreamed it all. Hi guys, thank you for choosing my channel. I hope you enjoyed my stories. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. If you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to my channel. Take care and be safe.